I personally do not have a domestic helper at home, but most of my relatives, they do have domestic helpers at home. And I wasn't born in Hong Kong, but when I first came to Hong Kong, my relatives, they all have domestic helpers at home. So to me, it wasn't something really foreign.
During my late teenage years, when I actually saw a lot of local children with all the helpers on the roads and in shopping malls where their parents were not with them. So that's when I thought that, okay, now many of the local parents are becoming very busy and they don't have time for their kids, so that's why they employ helpers.
其实很早就有了，因为以前看 TVB 港剧的时候就已经发现，其实香港人会雇这样外佣，就是会演一些家庭剧啊，然后家庭剧中就会出现一些外佣的声音，然后有时候还会出现一下外佣跟他们的对话，然后还有外佣用特别奇怪的广东话说话这样子。
In the past, well, as I observe, I think languages was one of the obstacles because, like 10 years ago, the domestic helpers, they do not really speak Cantonese and they only speak English. But in recent years, I realized a lot of domestic helpers, especially those from Indonesia, they speak really, really good Cantonese. And so I think in the past, language was a problem, but now I think most of the problems belongs to their benefits, I guess. Yeah. Maybe their day offs or something like that.
I think because of the cultural difference, maybe the employers cannot understand the employees and they cannot understand what their employers actually want from them. So that's where the conflicts actually rise, and sometimes the the employees, they don't understand the local language. So maybe there is a communication difference as well that may cause the conflict as well.
我觉得对于香港来说呢，我觉得最大问题应该是语言问题，因为比如说香港人的母语就是广东话，但是像那些应佣、菲佣，他们的母语可能是自己的印尼语啊之类的，然后他们英语都是他们的第二语言，然后他们都要用自己的第二语言进行相互的交流，我觉得应该会比较困难一些。
I think those cases are really extreme. I mean, throughout so many years, we've only seen just a couple of such extreme cases in Hong Kong. But then, I guess, most directly speaking, the employers will be the party that is most responsible for the cases because, they are being cruel and they are being bad for the employees. But then on the other hand, if something like that happens, I think the domestic helpers also have the responsibility to report their cases to NGOs or the government or call the police, whatever they could do.
I think the most are the employers, because they have this mentality. Well, I think that they have this kind of mentality that they are the helper, so you can do anything to them and make them do whatever they want. So I think employers should change their mentality and respect them. You really need to respect them because they are the ones who leave their families and come and help us over here. So that's what I think.
我觉得双方应该都是有责任的，因为我觉得就算那个雇主的心理再不正常，他也不会无缘无故的就去打骂他的佣人。那我觉得可能佣人自己可能会有一些做的不太恰当的地方，然后会招致雇主的一些不满，但是雇主肯定也是有非常大的错误的，因为我觉得他跟工人，因为工人也是在他们家做工，他应该对工人有尊重，然后应该有平等的对待他，不应该感觉你就是一样我的物品，然后我付你钱，相当于我买了你这样，我就可以随意对你随便打你，这样一定是不对的。
I think, well, if I were the employer, I would fire that employee immediately because I hire her to take care of my son, but not to educate him or to train him in any means, by any means. I mean, if my son it's really misbehaving, then then I guess it is the parent's responsibility to educate him instead of the domestic helper.
For me, I think my son's safety is the foremost thing. So I would fire her actually, because if an employee doesn't respect the kid, doesn't take care of the kid, I've kept her for my kid. So if you're not, she's not really, taking care of him and abusing him. So I would fire her actually.
我觉得首先我可能会辞退这个佣人，然后其次我会去把他告上法庭，然后通过一些法律的手段。
I'm not very sure about that. I think the wages now is actually okay because those employees they live with the employers, right? So they do not have to afford their own housing, or they do not have to really afford their food or something like that. But then most of the money they spend is just on their leisure or their personal use, and compared to what they're earning, or compared to what they earn back home, for example in the Philippines or in Indonesia, they're actually earning a lot in Hong Kong, so I think it's actually okay.
Yeah, I don't think that is necessary because there's a contract that you sign, and the law requires that the employees stay with the employers. So I think it's unreasonable that they have such demands.
我觉得这个调薪问题，其实我还蛮支持他们的，因为我觉得，因为大家工资都会上涨，然后他们的工资不应该也就是这么多年来就持平在一个不太高的水准，而且一般来香港工作的外劳，他们在他们的家乡，比如说菲律宾啊、印尼，应该都是有很大就拖家带口那种，他们有比如说他们的孩子需要他们养，然后比如说他们有生病的家人需要他们养，然后他们还有老人需要他们养，所以我觉得他们的经济负担蛮大。
I guess as long as the employers are okay with that, I think that makes sense. Because I think, I know some employers, they don't want to live with their employees as well. So they hire a house outside for them to, live with their fellow domestic helper friends. So I guess that makes sense if they mutually agree on that.
我觉得其实这是件方便双方的好事啊，因为首先对于外佣来说，他们自己就会有自己的。比较自由的这种权利，然后对于家庭来说，他们也不会觉得有一个外人可以在我们家。
What about them asking for Hong Kong permanent residency after 7 years?
After 7 years, well, I guess it's okay. I'm not completely against that. Yeah, it makes sense. I guess not when I start working, but then when I have a family and I have those household needs. For example, I need someone to do my housework for me, or when I have a kid in the future. So I guess that makes sense to have it at that stage. Yeah.
Depends on the situation. If I can do a lot of things by myself, I prefer to do it myself. But yes, if I have a kid or I have old parents to take care of, then I have no other choice but to keep a maid.
我应该不会请外劳，因为我觉得毕竟是交流起来不会有本地劳工这么方便了。而且至于一些风俗习惯、信仰习惯，我可能都不是特别了解。然后我比起外劳，我更愿意倾向一个自己本地的人，然后因为他就会更了解我的生活，然后我也可以给予他更大的信任。